Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tim, and as always, I want to thank you for being here and sharing time with me today. In this video, I want to talk to those who woke up from Jehovah's Witnesses, but their spouse didn't. Your spouse maybe didn't wake up with you. And we're going to explore why is it so hard to wake up a spouse? You know, what's going on in their minds? And also, how can you cope? Can the marriage even be saved? There are many mixed religious homes of different faiths. You might have Buddhist and Muslim, different Christianity, maybe Baptist and Lutheran or something like that. You may have different homes with different beliefs, and those marriages can work. There are even homes where Jehovah's Witnesses have, let's just give an example, a few that I know of is where the wife is a believer. The husband is an unbeliever. But he never got into the religion, never was baptized, never studied. He just doesn't believe it, so he doesn't really oppose his wife or object to her and her ministry and her service at the kingdom halls. However, when two people come together in this religion of Jehovah's Witnesses and one wakes up, if the other doesn't wake up with them, there is a very difficult and challenging road ahead. And I don't know of any homes where the marriage survived after one woke up and one didn't. If there is, please let me know in the comments if you know of any who have survived that. I'm sure there might be some. I don't know everybody, obviously. But I had never really heard of a story like that. I have heard of, and I congratulate the couples who or spouses who have woken up by listening to their spouse and maybe following, listening to what they had to offer, because again, marriage two become one. And when something is very, very important to one spouse, usually is important to the other. However, that gets to the point of why it's so hard sometimes, and I'm in this predicament, and that is waking up your spouse. It has to be done properly, and I'll talk about that later. But first, let's talk about the mindset of a Jehovah's Witness. And for those who have woken up and your spouse doesn't listen, it's something that I've had to remind myself and that you may have to remind yourself of, and that is you once believed what they believed. You looked at the governing body as being, I would say, equal to God. Not equal to God, but they could. Jehovah's Witnesses are taught that the governing body have the soul channel to God. So if that's the case, any questioning of the governing body would be like questioning God. They're taught to believe that this is the only, or they believe in the Bible. Jehovah's Witnesses use the Bible. They use their own translation for the most part. And they teach that only interpretation coming from the leaders, the governing body, is the correct interpretation of the Bible. And so I once believed that, and many who have woken up also once believed that. So with that mindset, you have to remember it needs to be a strategic way to wake someone up. In my personal experience, after waking up in 2021, and fading away from the religion, I started to let my wife know about things that I learned. And I did it the wrong way. I was not taking into account her mindset as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses are taught that they are the only true religion on earth, and that any negativity or any scrutiny into the religion is to be looked at as coming from Satan, the enemy of Jehovah. Because if it's the true religion, then anything that goes against it is considered to be wicked. So, and the reason we know that is, take a look at a few quotes I found from previous Watchtowers. One of them from the November 15th Watchtower, 2013, on page 20. It says there, quote, "We must be ready to obey any instructions we receive, whether these appear sound from a strategic or human standpoint or not." any instructions. It may not seem like it's real smart to do from a human standpoint or strategic, but it doesn't matter. Be ready to obey. So you have to remember that a spouse, it's hard to wake up a spouse who has this mindset that anything the governing bodies say comes from God. I had an elder, I mentioned in a previous video about an elder who called me before beards were allowed in the religion. I grew my beard out. I wasn't going to meetings, but one day on Zoom, I decided to show up. The next morning, that Monday morning, I got a call from this elder about my beard. And what he did was point me to Watchtower articles about beards. And the question I asked him was, where in the Bible does it say we can't wear beards? His reply was, Brother Edwards, do you believe in the governing body? Like, do you believe the governing body is being directed by God, by Jehovah? And we kind of had a stalemate on governing body versus the Bible. I was looking to the Bible as the authority. He was looking to the governing body as the authority. So you see, it can be very hard to wake someone up who has the mentality that they already have the truth. And anything you say, really, again, is wickedness. The next point is the fear factor. There is a large amount, in my opinion, of fear that's put into the minds of those who are Jehovah's Witnesses. Fear is what I grew up with. Fear and anxiety. Fear of Armageddon. Fear of being disfellowshipped. A lot of people are nervous to get baptized because they say, what if I mess up and get disfellowshipped? Because that ostracism and that shunning is something that is very difficult to deal with. Psychological torment is what I call it. But fear of Armageddon, Jehovah's Witnesses feel like if they really research their material, they may find some things they may not like. And so they can't imagine losing that social circle they have, their family, their friends. Fear of being disfellowshipped. The fear factor is strong. It's odd that as a witness, I can remember talking to people of different religions and getting them to look at their religion and scrutinize it. Talk about the negative parts of it, the origins of it, things like that, the things that they do, and how it doesn't line up with the Bible from the governing body's viewpoint of the Bible or interpretation of it. And however, when witnesses are confronted maybe to look at their own religion and their own beliefs and their interpretations from the governing body as coming from God, they can't do that. And a lot of them don't want to do it because they know that they may not like what they find. However, they're instructed over and over again, don't listen to nobody who trying to tell you something negative, even your family members. Your spouse might love you, but their devotion, their loyalty is to the organization first. My own wife has told me on many occasions in conversation and disagreements about certain Bible topics that she believes in God. Like, basically everything she's saying is like, no, I believe in Jehovah. I believe in Jehovah and God. But I'm like, I say, well, you're believing what the interpretation that you're getting is from the governing body. It's not from yourself. You don't study the Bible for yourself and interpret it. You rely on the teachings of the governing body. They highlight a scripture at Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. I can remember that because it's repeated over and over again. Everybody knows it, who's a witness and who's an ex-witness. Do not lean on your own understanding. Don't lean on your own understanding. There's another scripture I can't remember. Don't trust in your heart. Don't be believing in your heart. The heart is treacherous. You see, now that when someone wakes up, they can see they can see the manipulation behind the wording of the Watchtower and their publications about how don't look into yourself. Don't rely on anything you believe, your gut feelings and what you might, your nature, your spirit. Don't be relying on that. Don't you do it, because we have the truth. Remember, we're the only ones connected to God. But yet we're uninspired and we're not infallible. But don't you lean on your own understanding. Let us interpret it for you. And I'm getting a little bit off track, but that's just what I do sometimes. But back to marriage and the difficulties of being married in a religiously divided home. Not just a religiously divided home, a home where two partners are Jehovah's Witnesses and one is no longer. Since I left in 2021, my marriage has been very difficult. I'll be transparent with you. And even up to right now, even at this point right now, we are separated. I'll put that out there. It's okay. Everything will work out for the best. It is a very challenging time right now. However, I know that things will work out because I have faith. I am more conscious and spiritual than I've ever been in my whole life. And eventually my wife will wake up. Hopefully. We'll see. But I did it wrong. And I'm about to get into that in a minute about the approach. Your approach, there's a quote from a rapper. He said a long time ago, everything is one on the approach. And that to me, when I heard that, it stuck with me for years. I heard it back in the 90s. And I promise you, it has a huge effect on the listener, how you approach the subject. You can't bombard them and throw grenades at them and the Royal Commission and the United Nations and the CSA and all this different stuff and the generation teaching in 1914. And it's so many things, because once you wake up and you get to going down that rabbit hole, there's a list. There is a literal list of things that you could bring up about this religion to prove that this is not coming from God. This is not God's sole channel. These men up in New York, who are mostly American men, white male American men and one black guy. And again, when I say that, don't take it as racist or nothing like that at all. I love all people. But to me, it's kind of odd how the founder of this religion, the president in the beginning, before it became Jehovah's Witnesses, the guy who took over, Rutherford and Nathan H. Noor, these guys have all been white males who ran it, mostly American white males. So, for a worldwide organization that has communication with the Almighty God, I don't know why we don't have any Hispanics or, Africans and Asians. There's a lot of different people in the world, but yet we got primarily one race, one gender, telling us what's coming from Jehovah, from the Almighty Creator. There I go again, getting off track. Let's get back to it. In a divided home in the marriage, at least in my home, I can speak on it from experience. There is a divide. There's a emotional divide, you might say, because when someone wakes up from the religion, it's a traumatic experience. There are stages of grief that you go through, and you can't share your healing journey with your spouse. The one who's supposed to be your best friend, the one you're supposed to be able to confide in, you can't do that. You can't share new things and discoveries you've learned. Hey, look at what I found. Oh, that's right. I can't share it. So I've been feeling for a long time like I am all by myself, because my wife's family, our friends, our social circle, again, when you're a witness, your world is witness world. Everybody you know and hang with is in that world. Thank goodness, I'll talk a little bit later, but thank goodness I've met some amazing people through my line of work as a barber and through YouTube. I've met some great people who are there for me whenever, they extend a hand no matter what. And to me, that's I love that. I appreciate it, the unconditional support and love. That's being Christ-like. But anyway, it's hard to be able not to be able to talk to your spouse about things you've learned and really what you're going through, because it is definitely not easy. It is not easy. There were times where I have asked, I said, can we sit down? Can we spend some time to sit down and let me show you something to me? I was born and raised in this religion. I gave talks. I was a ministerial servant. I know a lot about this religion. When I was in prison, I studied like I never studied before, the so-called deep things. And, we couldn't do that. She looked at a few things that I sent her. She said she did, but we were never able to sit down and discuss like 1914. We never got to sit down and discuss the changes in doctrine, like the organ transplant changes and just different things about the history of the religion. It is it's disheartening. It is very uncomfortable talking about this right now, but at home it's very uncomfortable. And when you go through these stages of when you wake up, is an anger phase. And I'll be honest, I was in an anger phase for a long time. When Sunday morning would come around, Sundays were not good days at home, because what I wanted was for the family to spend a day together, maybe clean the house, maybe go somewhere, have meal, things like that. You know, family time together, because work interferes a lot with things. And so Sunday was a day that I felt like we should be together. But my wife is going to the meetings because that came first. That comes first. The organization comes first. And they don't say the organization comes first. They say God comes first. It's like almost like the organization and God are just like right here. They're equal. And the hardest part of all of this is having children. Having two young children, 6 and 8 years old, and they want to please their mom and their dad. And as a man, I want to lead my family. I want to lead them spiritually. But I'm not above the governing body. You know, I'm not above the governing body. And this goes the other way too for maybe wives who woke up and their husband is still in the religion. And he won't wake up. But I can only speak from my vantage point. It is very, I keep saying it and I mean it, it is difficult. I'm trying to just breathe right now because I can get, but anyway, you know, when it comes to teaching the kids, what do you teach them? You know, for a long time, or for their infancy, you know, birthdays were bad, holidays were bad, everything Jehovah's Witnesses considered bad, or excuse me, everything the governing body considered bad was considered bad or worldly. What they considered pagan was the pagan you can't mess with. But the other pagan stuff you can do. And what am I talking about? Well, we can't get away from days of the week. Those have pagan origins, or the months of the year. We even live on a pagan calendar. The wedding ring has pagan origins. There are many things that are pagan, but Jehovah's Witnesses, the leaders, try to set themselves apart as different from everybody else. So there's no, you don't celebrate nothing. I remember growing up in school, you know, you don't celebrate nothing. You ain't no partying for you, buddy. Ain't no Valentine's party. You know, I didn't even get to go to the prom. You know, it just, you didn't get to play sports in school. Nobody told you to go to college and make something of your life. Everything was controlled by the Watchtower Corporation, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York. They controlled everything. So when we have kids now, what do? And I feel so bad for my kids because they're in the middle of this, and we both love them. She loves her kids. My wife loves her kids very much, and so do I. We both love them very much. We'll give our life for them in a heartbeat. But as a man trying to lead his family, and your wife is her, you know, it's not completely to you. Her subjection is to the men in New York more than you. It is rough. It's rough to deal with. But I'm dealing with it, and things will be okay. I've taken my kids, you know, we've been to some birthday parties. This year I plan on celebrating their birthday this year. I'm sorry, their birthday is that's a miracle that day. When you watch your children born on the day that they come into this world, that is a miracle. And if you can celebrate a anniversary of a wedding, when marriages got about a 50% divorce rate, you know, they're not guaranteed. But what's guaranteed is the day your child came into this world, I'll never forget it. And I'm going to celebrate that day with them. And they are eager to. They love it. They love it. Christmas time this past December was the first time in my life I didn't get a Christmas tree and all that stuff. You know what I mean? I don't need to do all that. My intentions ain't to be all, jolly, Santa Claus and all that stuff. We know the history of that stuff, the origins of it. I'm not doing all that. But at Christmas time, I got my boys a bunch of gifts, wrapped them up, and spread them out throughout Christmas, their Christmas break from school, and on Christmas Day too. My intentions is to give my kids, I want to see them smile. And my intentions is to just make them happy, and there are no bad motives with it. So it's been hard on that tip. Of course my wife doesn't like it, but hey, I don't like them going to the Kingdom Hall. I don't like them going out on field service. But they do some things with her, and they do things with me. And when they get older, they'll be able to make their own decision. But I tell them on a level that they can understand why I don't believe in Jehovah's Witnesses. My son asked me a few years ago, Dad, why don't you go to the Kingdom Hall no more? I don't remember what I told him exactly, but on the level he can understand, I told him why. I told him a few things that I don't believe anymore. I do believe in God. I do believe there's a source of all life, and I believe we're all connected to him. And not him, it. I don't like even saying him or her. I was telling my son, though, that we're all connected to the source of life. We don't need some leaders in New York, a few guys up in New York to tell us that we're connected to God or not connected, because if we don't listen to them, you're not connected to God. Jehovah's Witnesses believe that at Armageddon, that's going to be here at any minute, that the only survivors will be them. That's right. It's going to be a genocide over the whole earth. God don't care about nobody else except Jehovah's Witnesses. When you really ponder on just that thought, that God only cares about them, but, oh man. And once he kills everybody off, he going to resurrect a few and be like, if you follow these guys, you get to live forever, baby. Paradise on earth. You're going to turn earth to a paradise, just 8 million of them. Going to turn the whole globe into a paradise. You're physically in but mentally out, and your wife or your spouse is physically in, mentally in. How can you cope with that, and what can you do to help wake them up? Well, I tell you what not to do is what I did. And that is throwing those bombs on them, all that information, just throwing it at them, hurling it, vroom, 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 shooting it at them. They're not going to take it well. My wife didn't take it well, and I blame myself for some reason why she hasn't woken up. Because if I would have approached her differently, I might not be sitting here talking to you. Because I promise you, if my wife would have woke up with me and we were just raising our kids normally, I probably wouldn't be doing this. But activism now is a responsibility, is a duty for me to call out. And I can't say that I wouldn't have, because of the disturbing things I learned. I still may have done this. But this is more of a reason because I have children. She still believes in it and takes our kids, around these teachings, these dark teachings and this religion. So the best thing you can do is drop seeds, little hints, questions, leading questions, get them to think. You might ask them like, man, the 144,000, what you think about the number? You think it's like how many? I used to look at the yearbook every year. And the first thing I would look for, how many people partook worldwide. That was, that was a sign that Armageddon gonna be here, because that number kept going down. Then it started going up. It's like, wait a minute. But if you just drop little seeds like that, it might get their mind going. But I'll tell you what, it takes some fortitude and some good self-control to keep a mask on when you know the truth about the truth. But I encourage you to do that if you're in that situation. That's to give them a little bit of time and lead with love. They may not remember your arguments that you had, but they will remember how you made them feel. And in my anger phase, trying to get my wife to wake up was the wrong way to do it. I talk bad about the religion. I did. I still do, but not to a degree like I used to. I used to talk bad about it because, there's a scenario we talked about, and I think the most intense conversation we had was about a scenario that I presented, that if our son had an emergency accident and was in the emergency room and the doctor said, "Hey, your son needs blood. He need a blood transfusion right now. What hey, we need to work fast. We need to save his life." My question to her was, would you let your son die, or would you get him a blood transfusion? Because Jehovah's Witnesses, I'm sorry, the leaders of Jehovah's Witnesses interpret the Bible and say that blood transfusions are not allowed. If you are about to die, and people have died from the doctrines in this religion, and then the doctrines have changed. You couldn't have a blood transfusion, or you couldn't have anything to do with blood. Now you can have, if your conscience allows you, fractions. I use the illustration of, if Adam and Eve, God said, don't touch the fruit, don't eat it, don't nothing. But what if they found a way to extract the vitamin C from the fruit, right? Hey, I didn't eat it. I just got a little. Whether you think that would fly? Probably not. But Jehovah's Witnesses have found loopholes in the thing. You can't have, the four main components of blood. You can't have whole white blood cell, red blood cell, plasma. You can't do that. However, you can't even donate plasma. That's against the rules too. But you can take medicine that comes from donated plasma, if your conscience allows you. You see the inconsistencies? People have died from doctrines, and then doctrines change where they could have had something to save their life. So that intense conversation with my wife was one that I won't forget, and I'm sure she won't either. We concluded the conversation. Basically, I said, don't worry. As their father, as a parent who wants to see their child lives, I will let the doctor know he needs to give him his blood. He needs to save his life. Yeah. As time goes on and you try to get your spouse to wake up, they may not never wake up. And if they don't, how do you deal with it? How do you protect your peace? Because I don't know how it can go on if you don't have some type of outlet. You have to find community. You got to find something to do. I encourage people to get out in nature, exercise, try to eat right. Your lifestyle will dictate a lot of your mental health. And take care of your mental health. Journal. Get a therapist. I'm going to therapy for the first time in my life. I'm admitting right here, right now, that I'm going to therapy. I used to talk against that. I ain't talking to nobody. No, I need it. I do. I need it. And it's part of my healing. I'm on a healing journey. I've realized that it takes years sometimes for people who left this religion to recognize and accept that they were in a cult. I'll just say that. Or they were in, let's say, like a toxic relationship. And they need therapy now. And so my first consultation or first appointments for next month in May. And I'm ready. This is also part of my healing, just doing this right here, talking to you. I've been listening to YouTube, people tell their stories. And again, I found people on YouTube that have been awesome, amazing. You know who you are, and I thank you. You have to protect your peace. You have to learn the value of you and what you have, okay? Once you wake up and realize that you've been tricked and manipulated, you have to find strength. You have to find courage. And I believe you have to go within. That's my own personal belief. I'm not going to get religious and all that kind of stuff. I'm not religious, I'm sorry, but get into what you need to be doing. I'm just encouraging you that if you don't find the value in yourself and believe in yourself, man, you'll fall for anything. I've never believed in myself most of my whole life. And these past few years, I've gradually, and I'm still learning, to believe in myself. That God dwells with me and in me and through me. There's a common quote that's usually expressed, I've seen it numerous times, about healing. It doesn't mean the damage never existed. It just means that it doesn't control your life. And that freedom that comes knowing that, man, you can recognize things now and know that you can't just be duped. You can't just be tricked into something now, because you have control of your life. If you live in a situation where you have a situation at home where your spouse has not woken up and you have, I encourage you really they may not never wake up, But you deserve peace. You deserve truth. You deserve love. I encourage you, if you're going through this, don't lose yourself in the process. Try to get help where you need it, if you need it. And just remember that you're not alone. Many of us are on this road with you. We going through it. And, if you have comments, I appreciate them. If you have comments on your situation, please feel free to comment. If you want to reach out to me personally, my email is in my description on my channel. I really want to see all of us who have left the religion to succeed. Life is short. And once you recognize that you are in control of your life now, oh man, that's a beautiful feeling. It's a beautiful feeling. So thank you again for being here. I'm going on and on. I'll see you on the next video. Peace.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Am I clear?
All right, testing. Is it clear? All right. Today we're going to talk about